I stormed into my manager's office after accidentally seeing a payroll document showing my coworker Sarah getting twice my salary for the same position. Manager Amanda coldly slid the employee handbook across the desk, citing a new policy about market rate adjustments. When I protested the blatant unfairness, Amanda smirked and pointed out the window at the gleaming building across the street, their biggest rival. If you don't like it, you can always go work over there. The next morning, the giant digital screen on that building started displaying something that made everyone panic. I had worked at Sync Solutions for 4 years as a senior marketing analyst. 4 years of early mornings, late nights, weekend calls with clients, and campaigns that consistently exceeded targets. At 32 years old, I thought I had built something solid here. I thought loyalty and hard work mattered. That Tuesday morning started like any other. I was delivering our quarterly performance reports to Amanda's office on the 14th floor, the stack of bound presentations heavy in my arms. Her door was partially open, and I knocked twice before entering. She was on a phone call, gesturing impatiently for me to set the reports on her desk. That's when I saw it. Her computer screen angled just enough that the spreadsheet was visible. Payroll data, names, positions, salaries in neat columns. My eyes caught my own name first, then froze on the number next to it, $47,000. Then I saw Sarah's name directly below mine. Same job title, same department, $94,000. My heart started pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I set down the reports carefully, my hands suddenly shaking. Amanda ended her call and looked at me expectantly. "Is there something else?" she asked, her tone already annoyed. "I need to speak with you privately," I managed to say, my voice steadier than I felt. She sighed heavily, glancing at her watch. "Make it quick." I closed the door behind me and stood in front of her desk. "I saw the payroll information on your screen just now. I didn't mean to, but I couldn't help noticing that Sarah makes $94,000 while I make $47,000. We have the same job title and responsibilities. Can you explain that?" Amanda barely looked up from her phone. "New market adjustment policy. Some positions qualified for recalibration. Yours didn't, but we have identical job descriptions," I said, trying to keep my voice level. "Sarah was hired 6 months ago. I've been here 4 years. I brought in the Hartman account, the Morrison campaign, the entire autumn product launch. How does that not qualify for market adjustment?" Amanda set down her phone with deliberate slowness. "Sarah negotiated better when she was hired. That's not my problem. Maybe you should have asked for more when you started 4 years ago." The casual cruelty of it took my breath away. I've consistently exceeded every performance metric. My client retention rate is 98%. I just brought in 3 major accounts this quarter alone. "Look, Nora," Amanda said, her voice taking on that condescending tone I'd heard her use with others but never quite directed at me. "If you're unhappy here, nobody's forcing you to stay." She turned her chair toward the window, gesturing at the gleaming glass building across the street. "TechVantage Corp, our biggest competitor. Their logo visible even from here. You can always go work over there if you think you're worth more," she said, that smirk playing at the corners of her mouth, the dismissive tone, the casual wave of her hand, the implication that I was being unreasonable for expecting fair compensation. I stood there for a moment, feeling the humiliation wash over me in waves. 4 years. 4 years of dedication, of going above and beyond, of building relationships with clients and bringing value to this company. And this was how little I mattered. "Thank you for your time," I said quietly, and walked out of her office. Back at my desk, I couldn't focus on anything. My hands trembled as I tried to type responses to emails. I kept seeing that number. 47,000. Half of what Sarah made. Sarah, who was perfectly nice but still learning the systems I had mastered years ago. Sarah, who came to me with questions multiple times a week. I looked out my window at TechVantage's building across the street. Their giant digital billboard usually displayed tech news and industry updates. Today, it was showing their latest product announcement, the text scrolling smoothly across the massive screen. My phone buzzed. A LinkedIn message. I opened it absently, still in a daze from the conversation with Amanda. It was from someone named Marcus Chen. Wait, no. The instructions said not to use Chen. Let me reconsider. Marcus Bradford at TechVantage, HR Director. The message was professional but warm. Hi Nora, I've been following your work on the DataSync campaigns, particularly the autumn product launch. Really impressive strategy and execution. I'd love to have a conversation about opportunities at TechVantage if you're open to it. No pressure, just coffee and conversation. I stared at the message for a long time. The timing felt surreal. Almost like the universe had heard Amanda's dismissive challenge and decided to answer. I looked across the street again at that gleaming building, then back at my computer screen where my email signature still proudly proclaimed Senior Marketing Analyst, DataSync Solutions. Amanda had basically dared me to do exactly what I was now considering. I typed back. I'd be interested in learning more. When works for you. That evening, I sat in my small apartment, unable to eat the dinner I'd made, my laptop open on the coffee table. Sleep felt impossible. I started researching TechVantage, diving deep into everything I could find online. Their website showcased a modern, innovative culture. Employee testimonials talked about work-life balance, professional development opportunities, and a genuine commitment to diversity and inclusion. Their Glassdoor ratings were significantly higher than DataSync's. I checked salary data, my stomach sinking as I realized similar positions there paid between $70,000 and $90,000. I had been systematically underpaid, and Amanda had known it all along. The next day at work, I moved carefully through my routine, but everything felt different now. I saw DataSync with new eyes, noticing things I'd overlooked or excused for years. During lunch, I sat with Jenny from the data analytics department. We'd been friendly for a while, sometimes grabbing coffee together. Can I ask you something confidential? I said quietly, checking that no one was nearby in the break room. Jenny leaned in. Of course. Do you know what Brandon makes? Roughly. Brandon was her counterpart, same job title, same level. Her face fell. You found out too. Found out what? He makes $72,000. I make $52,000. I only know because I saw it on an HR form that got misdirected to my inbox last month. She looked down at her salad. I've been trying to figure out what to do about it. My chest tightened. This isn't just me. No, Jenny said quietly. I talked to Rachel in product development a few weeks ago. Same story. She makes $20,000 less than Thomas, who does the identical job and has less experience. Amanda's department seems to be the worst. But it's not isolated to just her team. I spent the rest of the week quietly gathering information. 3 other women in various departments confirmed similar disparities. The pattern was unmistakable. Amanda's new policy seemed to exclusively benefit new hires who were men, or people who socialized with her outside of work hours, or those who simply hadn't been around long enough to see how the system worked. Saturday morning, I met Marcus at a coffee shop exactly halfway between DataSync and TechVantage. He was in his early 40s, professional but approachable, with an easy smile that felt genuine. Thank you for meeting with me, he said as we sat down with our coffees. They'll be direct because I respect your time. We're expanding our marketing division at TechVantage. I've seen your campaign work, particularly what you did with the autumn launch. That was brilliant strategy. The messaging, the timing, the target audience analysis. That's the kind of thinking we need. I appreciate that, I said carefully. Can I ask what you're currently making at DataSync? I hesitated, then decided honesty was the only way forward. $47,000. Marcus' eyebrows shot up. He didn't hide his shock. For senior-level work? That's well below market rate. You know that, right? I'm learning that now, I said, surprised by the emotion in my voice. We can offer you $85,000 as a starting point, he said. Senior Marketing Strategist position, which is actually a better title than what you have now. Full benefits package, stock options, professional development budget of $5,000 annually. We need someone to start in 2 weeks if possible. I felt dizzy. $85,000, nearly double what I was making. For work I already knew how to do. Think about it over the weekend, Marcus said kindly. I know it's a big decision, but Nora, you're worth a lot more than what you're being paid. I hope you know that. The weekend passed in a blur of indecision. Part of me felt disloyal for even considering leaving. I had built relationships at DataSync. I liked some of my coworkers genuinely, but every time I wavered, I heard Amanda's voice. You can always go work over there. The dismissive tone. The smirk. 4 years of dedication rewarded with systematic underpayment. Monday morning, I walked into the office with a knot in my stomach. It almost convinced myself to accept Marcus' offer when Amanda's assistant stopped by my desk. Amanda wants to see you. Now. My heart sank, but I walked to her office, hoping maybe she'd reconsidered. Maybe she'd talk to HR or upper management, and realized the pay disparity was indefensible. Amanda was typing on her laptop when I entered. She didn't look up. Close the door and sit down, she said. I did, my palms sweating. I've been reviewing departmental budgets, Amanda said, still not making eye contact. Due to some restructuring, we need to make adjustments to several positions. She finally looked at me, her expression cold and professional. Your role is being modified. You'll be moving from senior analyst to junior coordinator. The room seemed to tilt. I'm sorry, what? It's temporary, just until the next quarter review. Same work, but the title and compensation will reflect the new designation. $42,000 annually. You're demoting me and cutting my pay. I couldn't keep the shock out of my voice. It's not a demotion, it's a restructuring. If you perform well in the coordinator role, well, reassess in 3 months. I sat there, understanding with perfect clarity what was happening. This was retaliation. I had questioned the pay inequality, and this was my punishment. Amanda was making an example of me. Is there anything else? Amanda asked, already turning back to her computer. No, I said quietly. Nothing else. I walked back to my desk on legs that didn't feel quite steady. I sat down, stared at my computer screen, and felt something shift inside me. Not just anger anymore, but clarity. Crystal clear understanding of exactly what I needed to do. I pulled out my phone and opened my email. Hi Marcus, I accept your offer. I can start in 2 weeks. Thank you for seeing my value. His response came within 10 minutes. Welcome to the team. I'm excited to have you. Come by tomorrow to sign paperwork. This is going to be great. I spent the rest of the day documenting everything. Every project I'd worked on, every client relationship I'd built, every achievement that Amanda had taken credit for in presentations to leadership. I saved files, created detailed transition documents, organized my work meticulously. If I was leaving professionally, with no loose ends. That night, I drafted my resignation letter. Simple, professional, effective. 2 weeks' notice, starting immediately. No explanations, no accusations, just the facts. I read it over a dozen times, each time feeling more certain this was right. Tuesday morning, I printed the letter on company letterhead. At 9 a.m. sharp, I walked into Amanda's office. She was mid-sip of her morning coffee when I placed the letter on her desk. She set down her cup and read it, her expression shifting from confusion to anger in the span of seconds. You can't be serious, she said. This is extremely unprofessional. After everything this company has invested in you. I'm giving the standard 2 weeks' notice, I said calmly. That's perfectly professional. After everything this company has done for you. Her voice was rising. You mean paying me half what I'm worth? Or demoting me for asking questions about pay equity? Amanda stood up, her chair rolling back. Where do you think you're going? No decent company will hire someone who just quits without warning. TechVantage, I said simply. I start in 2 weeks. Senior marketing strategist. They seem to think I'm worth investing in. The color drained from Amanda's face. She sat down heavily. You're going to our competitor? That's corporate espionage. That's unethical. Well, sue you? It's called accepting a better offer. You told me I could go work over there if I wasn't happy. I took your advice. I kept my voice steady. And I already checked with a lawyer. My contract has no enforceable non-compete clause. I looked it up specifically. You'll never work in this industry again, Amanda said, her voice shaking now. I'll make sure of it. I have connections. Have a good day, Amanda, I said and walked out of her office. Back at my desk, I could feel eyes on me. Several colleagues had been watching through the glass walls of Amanda's office. Word spread through the floor within minutes. Some people stopped by my desk to quietly congratulate me. Others avoided eye contact, uncomfortable with the sudden disruption to the status quo. Jenny appeared at my cubicle, eyes wide. "You really did it. You actually resigned and you're going to TechVantage." "I did," I said, feeling strangely calm now that it was done. "They're hiring? Aren't they?" I smiled. "I can give you Marcus Bradford's contact information if you're interested." That afternoon, my work phone rang. The caller ID showed it was David Preston, the VP of the entire company, Amanda's boss. "Nora, this is David. Do you have a minute to talk?" My heart raced. "Of course. I heard you resigned. I'd like to ask you to reconsider. We value your contributions to this company." I was silent for a moment. Then I said, "Can I ask if you're aware of why I'm leaving? Amanda mentioned some dissatisfaction with your role and compensation. Did she mention that I discovered I'm making $47,000 while my counterpart Sarah, who has the same job title and less experience, makes $94,000? Or that when I questioned this, I was demoted and given a pay cut?" Silence on the other end. "I've already accepted another position," I continued. "But I think you should know what's happening in Amanda's department. This isn't just about me. Can you send me specifics? Names, numbers, documentation?" "I'll email you within the hour." I spent the next hour compiling everything. A detailed spreadsheet showing pay disparities across gender lines in multiple departments, with Amanda's being the worst. Dates of conversations. The timeline of my demotion following my question about pay equity. I sent it to David with a professional cover email. Within 2 hours, Amanda was called into David's office. The entire floor could hear raised voices through the closed door. By the end of the day, Amanda looked shaken and pale, avoiding everyone's eyes as she left. My 2 weeks had officially begun, and everything was about to change. The next morning, I arrived at work to find the atmosphere had shifted completely. People who normally chatted easily in the break room fell silent when I entered. Amanda hadn't left her office all morning, her door closed, her blinds drawn. I sat at my desk and tried to focus on creating transition materials, but my mind kept racing ahead to what came next. Around 10 a.m., Jenny stopped by my desk. "Can we talk?" "Privately." We went to the stairwell, away from listening ears. "I submitted my resignation this morning," she said, her voice shaking slightly with nervous excitement. "I reached out to Marcus like you suggested. He wants to interview me next week." "Jenny, that's amazing," I said, genuinely happy for her. "You opened the door," she said. "You showed the rest of us it was possible to leave. That we didn't have to just accept being treated this way." By Wednesday, 2 more people from the department had given notice. Both cited pay equity concerns and poor management in their exit interviews. Amanda was spiraling. I could see it. She called emergency team meetings, tried to do damage control, but it was too late. The exodus had begun. David called me Thursday morning. "I wanted you to know we're conducting a full compensation audit across all departments, and we're investigating the circumstances around your demotion. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. I hope it helps the people who are staying," I said. "We'd like to make you a counteroffer. 80,000, promotion to team lead, reporting directly to me instead of Amanda. 2 weeks ago, this would have been my dream. Now, it felt hollow." "I appreciate that, David. I really do. But 2 weeks ago, I would have been thrilled with this offer. Now I know my actual market value, and more importantly, I know what it feels like to be truly valued. I can't come back." "I understand," he said quietly. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry we failed you." The following week, Amanda tried a different approach. She asked me to meet her for coffee off-site, away from the office. Against my better judgment, I agreed. We sat in a Starbucks 3 blocks away. She looked tired, older somehow than she had 2 weeks ago. "I want to offer you 80,000 to stay," she said without preamble. "And the team lead promotion. You can have your old title back, plus the upgrade." I stirred my coffee slowly. 2 weeks ago, that would have changed my life. But you know what happened instead? I learned that my worth isn't determined by whether you choose to recognize it. "You're making a mistake," Amanda said, an edge creeping into her voice. TechVantage will chew you up and spit you out. They're ruthless. Maybe, I acknowledged. But at least they'll pay me fairly while doing it. And honestly, Amanda, I don't trust you anymore. You retaliated against me for asking a legitimate question. Why would I stay? She had no answer for that. My final project at DataSync was wrapping up the massive campaign for Hartman Industries, our biggest client. ID built a relationship with their CEO, James Hartman, over 18 months of dedicated work. The campaign launched Thursday of my last week. It was a massive success, exceeding projected engagement by 40%. Amanda tried to take credit in the presentation to upper leadership, but everyone in that conference room knew it was my work. James himself sent an email specifically thanking me by name, copying the entire leadership team. Friday arrived. My last day. I packed my desk slowly, methodically. My favorite coffee mug that said, "But first coffee." The small plant I'd kept alive for 3 years. Photos of my family. The award ID won for client retention 2 years ago. Several coworkers took me to lunch at the Italian place down the street. We shared stories. Some people got emotional. They asked if I was nervous about starting at the competitor. Terrified, I admitted, but also excited. I forgot what it felt like to be valued, to have someone actually see my work and want to invest in me. Rachel from product development, who I'd become friendly with over the years, squeezed my hand. You're braver than the rest of us, but you're also showing us it's possible. That afternoon, I had my exit interview with Patricia, the HR director. She was professional but clearly concerned about the sudden exodus of talent from multiple departments. Can you tell me, in your own words, why you're leaving? She asked. I was honest. Systematic pay discrimination, retaliatory management, a toxic culture that rewarded loyalty with stagnation. The specific details of my experience with Amanda. Patricia took detailed notes, her expression growing more troubled with each point. Is there anything we could do to make you reconsider? You already had that chance, I said gently. Amanda told me to go work somewhere else. So I am. At 4:30 p.m., I walked out of the DataSync building for the last time, carrying a cardboard box with my belongings. I stopped on the sidewalk, taking a deep breath of the cool autumn air. I looked up at TechVantage's building across the street, their giant digital billboard dark at the moment, which was unusual. As I stood there, the billboard suddenly illuminated, bright, impossible to miss. And there, in letters that had to be 40 feet tall, visible to everyone in both buildings, "Welcome to the team, Nora." My phone exploded. Text messages from former colleagues. Is that you? Did you see the billboard? Oh my God, Nora. I looked up at the DataSync building and could see people gathering at the windows, staring at the sign. Through the glass on the 14th floor, I spotted Amanda standing frozen, her face pale even from this distance. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Thought you deserved a proper welcome. See you Monday. We're excited to have you. I laughed, actually laughed out loud. Standing on the sidewalk with my box of belongings and my name in lights across the street. It felt surreal and perfect and terrifying all at once. This was really happening. I was really doing this. Monday couldn't come fast enough. Monday morning, I stood in front of my closet longer than usual, changing my outfit 3 times. First day jitters felt both ridiculous and completely justified. I was 32 years old, but I felt like I was starting my first job all over again. The TechVantage lobby was everything DataSync's wasn't. Bright, modern, with natural light flooding through floor-to-ceiling windows. The receptionist smiled warmly when I gave my name. Welcome, Marcus said you'd be arriving. Hell, be right down. Marcus appeared within minutes, genuinely happy to see me. The legendary Nora, he said, shaking my hand. Let me give you the tour. As we walked through the building, I noticed the differences immediately. Open workspaces balanced with quiet focus rooms. A cafe-style break area where employees were actually taking breaks, laughing together. Artwork on the walls from local artists. It felt alive in a way DataSync never had. My office was on the 8th floor, with an actual window overlooking the city. My name was already on the door, Nora Hayes, Senior Marketing Strategist. I ran my fingers over the nameplate, still not quite believing this was real. Your welcome packet. Marcus said, handing me a sleek folder. Company swag, including a high-quality laptop bag and water bottle. Benefits information showing health insurance that was significantly better than what Id had. Stock options paperwork that Marcus explained would vest over 4 years. We invest in our people long-term, he said. We want you to grow with us. At 11 a.m., I met my new team. Rachel Torres was my team lead, and she was everything Amanda wasn't. Warm, collaborative, genuinely interested in my background and ideas. The rest of the team included 5 other people, diverse in age, background, and expertise. They'd heard about the billboard welcome. That's probably the coolest recruitment move I've ever seen, said Tyler, who handled digital campaigns. The whole story is kind of legendary already. We had lunch together in the building cafe, and they actually asked about my experience, my perspective on industry trends, what approaches I thought worked best for client retention. People listened when I spoke, valued my input. It felt foreign after years of being talked over or dismissed. The first week was orientation, learning Checkmated systems and processes. Their technology was years ahead of what DataSync used. Their project management tools were intuitive and collaborative. Everything felt designed to make work more efficient, not more bureaucratic. I was given autonomy immediately. Rachel assigned me to develop strategy for a new product launch happening in 6 weeks. I want your fresh perspective, she said. You've done this successfully before. I trust you to lead this. Trust. Such a small word, such a massive impact. Week 2. I discovered something that made my stomach drop. TechVantage was preparing a major pitch for Hartman Industries, the same client ID just finished a successful campaign for at DataSync. James Hartman was apparently unhappy with recent changes at DataSync's leadership and was considering switching vendors. Rachel called me into her office. I wanted to be transparent with you about this. We're pitching Hartman next month. I know you just worked with them. I wanted to ask if you'd be comfortable being part of our pitch team. But I also want to be clear about boundaries. We're not asking you to share any proprietary DataSync information. I appreciated her directness. Can I think about it? Of course. Take your time. That evening, I called Marcus. I need to talk through the ethics of this situation. We met for coffee the next morning. I explained my concerns about using insider knowledge, even if unintentionally, about not wanting to betray confidences or cross professional lines. I respect that, Marcus said. Here is how I see it. You have industry expertise, and you built a relationship with the client based on your own merit. You know what makes them tick as a company, what they value. That's not proprietary information. That's professional insight you've earned. But if you're not comfortable, we won't include you in the pitch. I want to be part of it, I said slowly, but I won't share specific DataSync strategies or confidential information. I'll share what I know about Hartman's company culture and values, what matters to them as a client. Is that fair? That's exactly the line we want you to hold, Marcus said. Your integrity is why we hired you, not just your skills. 3 weeks into my new role, the Hartman pitch day arrived. Our team had prepared meticulously. The presentation focused on innovation, true partnership, and personalized service. When we walked into the conference room, James Hartman's face lit up when he saw me. Nora, so the rumors are true, you moved to TechVantage. I did, I said, shaking his hand. It's good to see you, James. The pitch went beautifully. Our team was polished, professional, and genuine. I contributed insights about Hartman's company culture, their long-term vision, what they valued in a vendor relationship. But I didn't disparage DataSync or share their strategic plans. I didn't need to. Our approach spoke for itself. Meanwhile, through my former colleagues who still reached out occasionally, I heard DataSync was in chaos. 5 more people had quit after my departure. The pay discrimination issue was under formal investigation by HR. Amanda was on thin ice with leadership, her entire management approach under scrutiny. Sarah, ironically, was drowning trying to manage the accounts I used to handle, along with her own workload. DataSync was scrambling to prepare their own pitch to keep the Hartman account, but they were doing it understaffed and disorganized. End of week 4, the decision came through. James Hartman personally called Rachel with the news, and she put it on speaker so I could hear. We're awarding the entire account to TechVantage, James said. The contract is worth $3.2 million annually, and IM's specifically requesting Nora as the lead strategist. You should know, we're not just buying your services. We're investing in relationships with people like Nora who genuinely understand our vision. The office erupted in celebration. This was the biggest account win in TechVantage's history. For DataSync, losing Hartman was devastating. It was one of their top 3 clients. That afternoon, there was a company-wide meeting. The CEO, Margaret, spoke about the win. This is what happens when we invest in talented people and treat them with the respect they deserve. Nora came to us just 4 weeks ago, and she's already made an incredible impact. Let's give her the recognition she's earned. Everyone applauded. I felt my face flush, overwhelmed by the public acknowledgement. Rachel pulled me aside afterward. You're getting a performance bonus for this win, and we'll be discussing promotion opportunities at your 3-month review. That evening, I stood at my apartment window, looking out at the city lights. My phone buzzed with a text from Jenny. I just accepted their offer. I start at TechVantage in 2 weeks. Thank you for showing me this was possible. I smiled, feeling something I hadn't felt in years at DataSync. Not just satisfaction with my work, but genuine joy in it. Hope for the future. The sense that my contributions actually mattered. Across the street, I knew DataSync was in emergency meetings, trying to explain to their board how they'd lost Hartman. Amanda was reportedly in damage control mode, her job potentially on the line. The next morning, I received an email from Amanda. It was furious, unprofessional, accusing me of stealing clients and corporate espionage. I forwarded it immediately to Marcus and TechVantage's legal department, as advised. I didn't respond to Amanda directly. There was nothing left to say. That afternoon, TechVantage's giant billboard displayed the announcement of the Hartman partnership. In huge letters visible from blocks away, including from every window of the DataSync building, my former colleagues would see it every single day. I had fought back, and I had won. 2 months into my role at TechVantage, I was thriving in ways I hadn't known were possible. The Hartman account was just the beginning. I brought fresh perspectives that came from years of being overlooked, of having to work twice as hard for half the recognition. Now, with actual support and resources, I was exceeding even my own expectations. It brought in 3 additional mid-size clients, worth a combined $1.8 million annually. Each pitch showcased what I'd learned: that authentic relationships matter more than flashy presentations, that understanding a client's core values creates lasting partnerships, that quality work speaks louder than empty promises. My salary had increased to $92,000 after the Hartman win. For the first time in my adult life, I wasn't stressed about money. I could help my parents with their medical bills. I was saving for a down payment on a condo. I had breathing room. More importantly, I had something I'd never experienced at DataSync: genuine work-life balance. I left the office at reasonable hours. I took my full lunch breaks. Nobody expected me to answer emails at midnight or work through weekends unless there was a true emergency. And even then, it was appreciated, not expected. The story of my departure from DataSync and my success at TechVantage spread through the local business community faster than I'd anticipated. I was contacted by 3 different trade publications asking for interviews about workplace advocacy and knowing your worth. A marketing podcast wanted me to discuss recognizing when it's time to leave a toxic environment. At first, I declined. I didn't want to seem like I was attacking DataSync or gloating about my success, but Rachel encouraged me to share my story. People need to hear this, she said. Especially women who are being systematically undervalued. You're not bragging, you're educating. So I agreed to one podcast interview. I was careful, professional, never naming DataSync directly but speaking honestly about discovering pay discrimination, being told to leave if I didn't like it, and taking that dare seriously. The episode went viral in our industry. My inbox flooded with messages from people sharing similar experiences, thanking me for speaking up. News about DataSync continued to reach me through former colleagues. They'd lost 2 more major accounts beyond Hartman. Amanda had been officially demoted, moved to a lateral position with no direct reports. The entire company was undergoing mandatory training on pay equity and unconscious bias. David Preston, the VP, actually called me personally to apologize. "I should have been paying attention sooner," he said. "We're implementing systemic changes because of what you brought to light. I know it doesn't change what happened to you, but I wanted you to know we're trying to do better." I appreciated his honesty. I hope it helps the people who are still there. 3 months after Eid left DataSync, something unexpected happened. I was at a coffee shop near my apartment on a Saturday morning, working on a presentation for a client meeting. The cafe was busy, filled with the pleasant hum of weekend conversations. Amanda walked in. She didn't see me initially. She looked exhausted, older somehow, the sharp edges of her usual corporate armor softened by what looked like genuine defeat. When our eyes met, she froze mid-step. I considered leaving, gathering my laptop and walking out. It would be easier, but something made me stay. Maybe curiosity, maybe a need for closure I hadn't known I was seeking. Amanda approached my table slowly. "Can I sit down?" I gestured to the empty chair across from me. She sat, her coffee forgotten in her hands. "I wanted to say I'm sorry for how I treated you." The apology caught me off guard. I'd expected defensiveness, excuses, maybe more anger. "Not this. I felt threatened by you," she continued, not meeting my eyes. "You were so good at your job, so naturally talented with clients. I was protecting my own position by keeping talented people down and underpaid. It's not an excuse. It's just the truth of what I was doing." I sat quietly, letting her speak. The demotion has made me confront things I'd been avoiding for years. My own insecurities, my terrible leadership, the harm I caused to multiple employees. I've been going to therapy, taking leadership coaching, trying to understand why I behaved that way. "What you did affected my life," I said finally. "My finances, my self-worth, my mental health for years. I worked myself to exhaustion trying to prove I was valuable, never understanding that nothing I did would be enough because you needed to keep me small to feel big." "I know," she said, her voice cracking. "I know I can't undo it. But I wanted you to know that I'm aware now. I'm trying to be better." I took a sip of my coffee, considering my words carefully. "You telling me to go work across the street was the best thing that ever happened to me." She looked up, surprised. "I was miserable and didn't even fully realize it until I left. You thought you were insulting me, dismissing me. Instead, you gave me permission to value myself enough to leave." Amanda nodded slowly. "You're thriving at TechVantage. Everyone can see it, including everyone still at DataSync. 5 more people left after me," she admitted. "Several of them cited your example directly in their exit interviews. The company is struggling to recruit because word has spread about the culture issues, about what I created." We sat in uncomfortable silence for a moment. "I don't forgive you," I said honestly. "Not yet, maybe not ever. But I recognize you're trying to change. That's your journey, not mine. I'm not carrying anger about this anymore. It was making me smaller. I'm focused on building something new, something better. I hope you keep thriving," Amanda said quietly. "You deserve it. You always did." She stood up, and I watched her leave, feeling something release in my chest. Not forgiveness exactly, but the letting go of weight I hadn't realized I'd been carrying. The following week, I was nominated for a Rising Star Award by the local business chamber. TechVantage leadership wrote glowing recommendations. I was invited to speak on a panel about workplace equity and advocating for yourself. The event was downtown at the convention center, with attendance from leaders of major companies across the city, including representatives from DataSync. Standing on that stage, I felt nervous but clear about what I wanted to say. The panel moderator asked me to share my story. I spoke carefully, never naming DataSync directly but being honest about discovering pay discrimination, being told to leave if I didn't like it, and taking that challenge seriously. "Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes a catalyst for the best thing," I said. "Not because the pain wasn't real, but because you choose to transform it into action." The audience was captivated. During the question and answer session, someone asked, "What would you say to managers who undervalue their employees?" I paused, choosing my words carefully. Sometimes the best thing a bad manager can do is dare their best employee to quit, because that employee might just become your biggest competitor's greatest asset. The room erupted in applause. I spotted several DataSync employees in the audience, including David Preston. After the panel, I was surrounded by people sharing their own stories, asking for advice, exchanging business cards. 3 women approached me together, all in their late 20s. "We work in the finance sector," one of them said. "We're all experiencing similar pay gaps compared to our male colleagues. Your story inspired us to start documenting everything and talking to HR together. Thank you for being brave enough to speak up." David Preston waited until the crowd thinned, then approached. "That took courage," he said, shaking my hand. "We're implementing major reforms at DataSync because of what you exposed. Pay audits across all departments, new policies on transparency, mandatory management training. I wish we'd done it sooner. I hope it helps," I said sincerely. A reporter from the Business Journal asked if I regretted how everything happened. I thought about the question seriously before answering. I regret not knowing my worth sooner. I regret the years I spent accepting less than I deserved. But I'm grateful for where I am now. Sometimes you need someone to push you, even if their intention was cruelty, to discover your own strength. That night, driving home, I felt something I hadn't experienced in a long time. Peace. Not just satisfaction with my professional success, but genuine peace with the journey that had brought me here. 6 months after leaving DataSync, my life had transformed in ways I couldn't have imagined. That day I walked into Amanda's office demanding answers about pay equity. I was now officially a marketing director at TechVantage, promoted ahead of the typical timeline. My salary was $112,000. I managed a team of 5 talented people, and I was determined to treat them the way I wish I'd been treated, transparent about compensation structures, advocating fiercely for their raises and promotions, creating space for them to grow without feeling threatened by their success. The Hartman account had expanded beyond the original contract. James Hartman specifically requested TechVantage for 2 additional projects, citing the partnership approach and personal relationships we'd built. The account was now worth $5.1 million annually, making it one of TechVantage's top revenue sources. Jenny had been at TechVantage for 4 months now, thriving in the data analytics department. 2 others who'd left DataSync after me were working at various companies throughout the city. We'd formed an informal support network, meeting once a month for dinner. We'd jokingly started calling ourselves Amanda's Refugees. Dark humor that helped us process what we'd been through together. At our latest dinner, Rachel from product development shared that she'd just gotten promoted and a 30% raise at her new company. "I never would have had the courage to leave if you hadn't gone first," she told me. "We all deserved better," I said. "We just needed someone to show us it was possible." The impact rippled beyond our small group. DataSync had been forced to implement comprehensive salary audits across every department. They'd corrected pay disparities, though the process resulted in losing more talented people who realized just how much they'd been undervalued. The company was slowly rebuilding its reputation, but the damage had been significant. Amanda was no longer with DataSync. She'd left to pursue other opportunities, according to the official company announcement. Through the professional grapevine, I heard she'd taken a non-management role at a smaller firm, specifically requesting a position without direct reports, while she continued therapy and leadership coaching. Several local companies had begun their own equity audits after hearing about the DataSync situation. The Business Journal ran a feature article about pay transparency and workplace culture, citing my story as a catalyst for broader industry conversations. It'd become unintentionally well known in the local business community. Not famous exactly, but recognized. People approached me at professional events, wanting to share their own stories or ask advice. I'd started volunteering with a nonprofit that helped women negotiate salaries and advocate for themselves in the workplace. My personal life had improved too. The financial breathing room meant I'd been able to buy a small condo in a neighborhood I loved, something that had seemed impossible when I was making $47,000. My relationship with my parents had strengthened now that I wasn't constantly stressed about money and could actually help them with expenses. I'd taken up running again, something I'd abandoned during the years of overworking at DataSync. One afternoon, I was driving to a client meeting and my route took me past the data sync building. I stopped at a red light directly across from it, looking up at the glass tower where Id spent 4 years of my life. I didn't feel anger anymore when I looked at it. Just a strange sense of gratitude mixed with sadness. Gratitude for the push that led to transformation. Sadness for the person I'd been. Working so hard for so little recognition, believing loyalty would eventually be rewarded. The light turned green, and I drove on. That evening, I drafted a LinkedIn post. I'd been thinking about it for weeks, trying to find the right words to capture what I'd learned. I wrote and deleted dozens of versions before finally settling on something that felt true. 1 year ago, I was told that if I didn't like my job, I could go work somewhere else. It was meant as an insult, a dismissal. I took it as an invitation. I discovered I was being paid half what my colleagues made for identical work. When I asked why, I was demoted. So I left. I went to the competitor across the street. Here's what I learned. Your value doesn't decrease based on someone's inability to see it. Loyalty without respect is exploitation. And sometimes the worst thing someone says to you becomes the best advice you never asked for. Know your worth. Don't wait for permission to claim it. The opposite of staying in toxicity isn't disloyalty, it's self-respect. I hit post before I could second-guess myself. Within an hour, it had hundreds of shares. By the next morning, thousands. Comments flooded in from people sharing their own stories of being undervalued, of finally leaving toxic situations, of discovering their worth. Several recruiters reached out asking if I'd be willing to speak at their companies about workplace culture. 3 different organizations invited me to join panels on leadership and equity. The post went viral in professional circles, sparking conversations about pay transparency, management accountability, and the cost of losing talented employees. Several business publications reached out for follow-up interviews. I was overwhelmed by the response, but also moved by how many people connected with the story. It wasn't just my story anymore, it was a shared experience, a common thread of people who'd been made to feel small and were finding their way to standing tall. 2 weeks after the LinkedIn post, TechVantage announced its annual awards. I was named Employee of the Year. At the company ceremony, Margaret, the CEO, spoke about my contributions, the accounts I'd brought in, the team culture I'd helped build, the industry recognition I'd brought to the company. But more than metrics, Margaret said, Nora represents what we value at TechVantage: integrity, excellence, the courage to stand up for what's right. She didn't just join our company, she elevated it. Standing on that stage, receiving the award, I thought about the version of myself who'd sat in Amanda's office, shaking with humiliation, being told my concerns didn't matter. I wished I could go back and tell her, this is coming, the pain is temporary, the growth is permanent. After the ceremony, Marcus pulled me aside. You know that billboard welcome we did on your first day? Best recruitment investment we ever made. We've had a 200% increase in qualified applicants since then. People want to work for a company that values talent like that. That night, I stood at my office window long after everyone else had gone home. The city lights sparkled below. Across the way, Data Sync's building stood dark except for a few scattered windows where people were working late, just as I used to do. I thought about Amanda, wherever she was now, hopefully doing the healing work she needed to do. I thought about the other people still trapped in situations like I'd been in, not yet ready or able to leave. Mostly, I thought about the journey, how pain can be a teacher, how betrayal can be a catalyst, how sometimes losing everything you thought was stable reveals what you're actually capable of building. I pulled out my phone and texted Jenny. Monthly dinner soon? My treat. We should celebrate how far we've all come. Her response came immediately. Absolutely. We're not refugees anymore. We're survivors. Actually, we're more than that. We're winners. She was right. We hadn't just survived. WED transformed our pain into power, our dismissal into determination. WED taken the worst things that happened to us and used them as fuel to become the best versions of ourselves. The city stretched out before me, full of possibility, full of promise. 1 year ago, Id stood on a sidewalk carrying a box of my belongings. My name in lights across the street, terrified and exhilarated. Now I stood in my own office, with my own team, having built something meaningful and real. The fear was gone. The exhilaration remained. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities. But tonight, I let myself simply feel satisfied, proud, complete. Id fought back. Id won, and it was only the beginning. 1 year after that moment in Amanda's office, I stood in TechVantage's conference room preparing for our annual strategy meeting. The view from the 20th floor was spectacular. The entire city spread out below like a promise kept. My team had grown to 8 people. WED brought in 11 major accounts over the year, contributing over $15 million in revenue. But the numbers weren't what mattered most. What mattered was the culture WED built. Every person on my team knew their worth. Every person was paid fairly. Every person had a voice that was heard and valued. Jenny stopped by my office before the meeting. She'd been promoted twice in the past year, now leading her own analytics team. Remember when we used to hide in the break room at Sank, talking in whispers about how undervalued we felt? I remember thinking that was just how work was supposed to be, I admitted. That everywhere was like that. We didn't know any better. Now we do. And we're making sure the people who work for us never have to learn the hard way. The strategy meeting went well. Margaret announced expansion plans for the next quarter. New hires, new opportunities, new markets. When she asked for volunteers to lead the new initiatives, hands shot up around the room. People were eager, confident, excited about possibilities. That's what happens when you invest in people instead of exploiting them. After work, I met Rachel, Jenny, and the others from our monthly dinner group. WED expanded from 4 to 9 people now, all of us having left toxic situations in the past year and found better opportunities. We met at a restaurant downtown, sharing stories and celebrating wins. I got contacted by a recruiter from DataSync last week, Rachel shared. They're desperately trying to rebuild their marketing department. Offered me nearly double what they used to pay me. What did you say? Someone asked. I said I'm very happy where I am, but they should look internally at why they're having trouble retaining and attracting talent. Rachel smiled. Polite, professional, but firm. The old me would have been scared to be that honest. The new me knows my worth. We toasted to that. To knowing our worth. To refusing to accept less than we deserve. To supporting each other through the transitions and transformations. Later that week, I received an unexpected email. It was from a woman named Sarah, not the Sarah from DataSync, but a different Sarah who worked at a tech company in Seattle. She'd read my LinkedIn post and listened to my podcast interview. Your story gave me the courage to finally leave a job where I was being severely underpaid and constantly overlooked for promotions, she wrote. I've been at my new company for 3 months now, making 60% more, and I wake up every day excited to go to work. Thank you for speaking up. You changed my life. I must have received 100 messages like that over the year. Each one reminded me that sharing my story mattered, that vulnerability could be powerful, that one person's courage could spark another's. I'd been asked to give a TEDx talk about workplace equity. The event was scheduled for next month, and I was both nervous and honored. My message had crystallized through months of reflection. Your worth is inherent, not granted by external validation. Loyalty should be reciprocal, not exploited. And sometimes the people who hurt us give us exactly the catalyst we need to become who we were always meant to be. One evening, I found myself driving past DataSync again. This time, I pulled into a parking lot across the street and just sat there for a moment, looking up at the building. So much had happened in that tower. 4 years of my life. Thousands of hours of work. Relationships built and broken. The discovery that changed everything. The confrontation that set everything in motion. I didn't regret those 4 years, I realized. They taught me what I didn't want. They showed me what I deserved. They gave me the contrast I needed to recognize genuine value when I found it. Amanda had been right about one thing, though Shed meant it cruelly. I could go work somewhere else, and that somewhere else was better in every possible way. I thought about her sometimes, hoped she was finding her way to becoming a better person. But mostly, I thought about all the people still sitting in offices like I used to, believing they have no options, accepting treatment they don't deserve, not knowing their own worth. If my story could reach even one of those people, if it could give them the courage to advocate for themselves or the permission to leave a toxic situation, then everything I went through mattered even more. The life lesson had become so clear over this year of transformation. Your worth doesn't decrease based on someone's inability to see it. You teach people how to treat you by what you're willing to accept, and sometimes walking away from those who diminish you is the most powerful thing you can do. When someone dares you to know your value, take them up on it. You might just discover you're worth so much more than you ever imagined. I started my car and drove home to my little condo, the space I'd been able to buy because someone finally paid me what I was worth. My home, my sanctuary, my tangible reminder that I made the right choice. That weekend, I volunteered at the nonprofit helping women negotiate salaries. A young woman in her mid-20s sat across from me, nervous and uncertain. "I know I should ask for more," she said, "but what if they say no? What if they get angry? What if they fire me?" I smiled, remembering asking myself those same questions. What if they say yes? What if they respect you more for knowing your value? What if asking is what opens the door to everything you deserve? Her eyes widened slightly, considering possibilities instead of catastrophes. "And if they do say no," I continued, "if they get angry or threaten you for simply asking to be paid fairly, then you've learned something crucial about them. You've learned they don't value you, and that's information you can use to make better decisions about your future." She left with her shoulders a little straighter, her voice a little stronger. I recognized that transformation. I'd lived it. Monday morning, back at TechVantage, I prepared for a pitch to a potential new client. Major opportunity, significant account, high stakes. My team had worked hard on the presentation, and we were ready. Before the meeting, I gathered my team in our conference room. "Remember," I told them, "we're not begging for this account. We're showing them what we bring to the table. We know our value. If they recognize it, great. If they don't, that's information about them, not us." Tyler grinned. "You've taught us well. I learned the hard way," I said. "So you all get to learn the better way." The pitch went beautifully. The client signed with us that afternoon. That night, I updated my LinkedIn with a post about the year anniversary of leaving Sank. I shared metrics: the accounts won, the promotions earned, the financial growth. But more importantly, I shared the emotional growth. The confidence gained, the self-worth reclaimed, the peace found. 1 year ago, I wrote, "Someone tried to make me feel small by suggesting I leave if I didn't like being treated poorly. I took their advice. Best decision I ever made." To everyone still in a situation that diminishes you, you're worth more. You deserve better. And you have more power than you think. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's thriving so completely that they can't help but see what they lost. Know your worth. Claim it, protect it, and never, ever let anyone make you feel grateful for less than you deserve. The post went viral again. Thousands of shares, hundreds of comments, but my favorite was from Jenny. "1 year ago, you showed me it was possible. Now I'm showing others." The ripple continues. Thank you. Standing at my office window that night, looking out at the city lights, I felt complete. Not because I'd gotten revenge on Amanda or Sank, not because I'd achieved some specific level of success, but because I'd reclaimed myself, my worth, my power, my future. The giant billboard across the way, the one that had welcomed me with my name in lights a year ago, now displayed a message that rotated through various company announcements. But I could still see it in my memory, still feel what it meant to be valued that publicly, that boldly. It'd gone from being told to leave if I didn't like it, to being welcomed in lights, from 47,000 to 112,000, from being diminished to leading others, from questioning my worth to knowing it with absolute certainty. The journey wasn't easy. There were moments of fear, doubt, uncertainty, but every step was worth it. And now, I want to ask you something. Have you ever stayed somewhere longer than you should have because you were afraid of what leaving might mean? Have you ever accepted less than you deserved because it felt safer than asking for more? What would happen if you took that dare? If you walked toward what you're worth, instead of away from it. If this story resonated with you, I hope you'll share it with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's still sitting in their version of Amanda's office, being told they don't matter. Someone who needs permission to value themselves. Leave a comment telling me your story. I read every single one, and your courage inspires me as much as I hope mine inspires you. If you found value in this story, please hit the like button. Subscribe so you don't miss future stories about finding your worth and fighting for what you deserve. And most importantly, share this with someone who needs to hear it. Sometimes one story, one message, one moment of recognition can change everything. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being part of this community of people who believe we all deserve respect, fair treatment, and the courage to claim our worth. Remember, you are valuable, you are worthy, and you deserve to work somewhere that recognizes that. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for perfect timing. When someone tells you to leave if you don't like it, maybe they're giving you exactly the push you need. Here's to knowing your worth, claiming your power, and building the life you actually deserve. See you in the next story.